And record. Beautiful. Okay, so welcome to the Sonic Combinator. I am here with my friend, James Bond. Yes, that is his real name, and he's amazing. He also wrote the book, Brain Glue, and he's one of the top, if not the top, marketing expert in the world, and also a behavioral management person. We spoke earlier, and I was just floored, impressed. And so today, you're going to see how good James is at what he does. You're going to want to work with him immediately after that. I promise you, I am not building him up for no reason. We're going to come up with an idea. It's going to be a product or a business or something related to economics. And then we're going to share that. We're going to come up with a hook, a tagline, a clever way to promote it, maybe a name for the product. James has written all about this in his book. So he's just using his knowledge basically on the fly. No LLMs, no ChatGPT here. And then we'll be looking for our viewers and commenters to go in and tell us exactly how we did. Sound good?
Scary.
I am super excited. Can you tell? But before we begin, why don't you tell everybody about yourself a little bit, James, please?
Well, sure. I think my parents had a sense of humor. My name is James Bond, but it's James I. Bond. Just FYI, I love saying my name was actually Fred Flintstone, but that didn't work. So I'm James Bond. But I'm considered one of America's leading behavioral management specialists. I have a tremendous marketing background. I've worked with tons of individuals and businesses and had helped them go through tremendous growth. I've worked with some of the world's largest companies. Amgen, the world's largest biotech company, is a good example. They used me for two things: to restructure their management, but also they said, we want to compete with Johnson & Johnson, which is a giant company. And, they make simple things that we know of like Band-Aids and stuff like that, but they also make other things in pharmaceuticals. And they got to compete with Johnson & Johnson and loved it. It was really great, even though they were a relatively new company. So I have lots of different experiences, but persuasion is one of the most valuable skills we can ever develop. Competitors don't want you to know what I'm about to share with you. Let me start there, okay? I've uncovered a secret to persuasion that's blowing people's minds and changing the way thousands of people are now selling their ideas and products forever by finding an easy way to do it. Let me give you some examples that are really fun. I just told you the first one, but I'll say it again. If you tell people to not do something, do not do something, is that an easy way to get them to do it?
Absolutely.
Please don't squeeze the Charmin. Turn Charmin toilet paper into $1 billion blockbuster. Please don't squeeze the Charmin. Cause millions of people to show up at the grocery store and actually squeeze Charmin, the toilet paper, and buy it. How about this one, okay? Now, I said this to 1,200 people in a business workshop I was doing, and everybody got it wrong. I said, roses are red, violets are blue. 20 and 1 is 20.
Ew.
And almost everybody says, no, it's not true. Roses are
Perfect.
red, violets are blue. 20 and 1 is 21.
Exactly.
But it's rhyme. It's the power of rhyme. And so this works in marketing, but it works in persuasion. So O.J. Simpson was going to be found guilty of murder for his wife and her girl, her boyfriend, and all that stuff. And then Johnny Cochran, his attorney, his friend told him, use this line. So he used the line, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit, because they found a glove of his. So, of course, he's an actor, and he acted like, this glove doesn't fit me. And two of the members of the jury were asked after, with all that evidence against OJ, how come you found him not guilty? And one responded while the other nodded her head in agreement. And they said, hey, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit. We had to acquit. Okay?
That's crazy.
OJ's LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was president of the United States right during the Vietnam War after John F. Kennedy, okay? And so people who hated him, they didn't hate him, but they hated the fact that America was in the Vietnam War. And so they had a slogan, and it was, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Rhyme, okay?
That's
Rhyme.
cool. Okay.
There's a competitor. So Blockbuster at the beginning of the 20th century for bread was white bread. What's it called? It's called...
like a loaf of Wonder Bread?
Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread invented sliced bread. So we often say, oh, wow, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, without realizing we're referring to Wonder Bread. For 10 years, Wonder Bread dominated the bread industry. And then two competitors came up with a slogan: the whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead.
No way. Really?
We've had COVID, okay? Well, they had pellagra, another illness, okay? And if you're missing vitamin B3, your body becomes much more receptive to getting pellagra, and then you can die. It's very similar to, similar to what we've had to deal with And so they came up with this line because they're bleaching the bread, so they're getting rid of all the vitamin B3 inside the bread. So they said, the whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. And all these newspapers across the country, across all of America, had that slogan and telling the story. The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. And literally almost bankrupted Wonder Bread. They came up with the idea of putting vitamins and minerals inside after you prepare the bread, and then it was better. But the whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. So we think of it from
it's a rough one.
Think about Famous Amos. He had almost no money, but he had this great idea
The
for
cookies. Yes.
Famous Amos cookies. It really works. 7-Eleven. Think of it rhymes. Reese's Pieces, Pooper Scooper.
There's one called a Spatty Daddy. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, no, that's a really good one though. I'll probably remember it.
Yeah, it's basically like a spatula, right? So they call it Spatty. And then there's a bigger version of it. So they call it the Spatty Daddy.
It works.
Yeah, and it works. I still remember it.
So I remember a mom and son, with no business experience, watched Shark Tank, and they loved it. And they said, wouldn't it be great if we can get on Shark Tank? Because they'll make us millionaires if they accept us.
Yeah.
Because, you get on Shark Tank, they invest and they help you grow your business. So they're thinking, well, we don't have a product. They weren't into business. They have no business experience. It took them about a month, and the mom has had difficulty going to the bathroom. Okay. And so the doctor told her, when you're on the toilet, if you raise your feet 6 to 8 inches off the floor, it changes the shape of your body and it becomes much easier to go to the bathroom. Tried it and it worked. And she went like, wow, this is great. We should do this. That should be the product we sell. We'll make a toilet stool that wraps around the toilet. And when you're on the toilet, if you want to, you slide it out and put your feet on it. Otherwise it sits. But what are we going to call it? The toilet stool? That's not a good name.
Definitely not stool in the bathroom.
Well, so what they came up with, my wife said they should have called it the stool. That's not a good name, but anyway.
That's a dirty word.
They said, well, what's another word for toilet? Because we don't want to call it toilet. Potty, like a porta potty.
Yeah.
And you're kind of squatting. Squatty potty.
Squatty potty. It describes everything exactly what you do.
They'd made $100 million in less than 2 years with the name Squatty Potty.
Can you imagine
no
that?
experience in business, okay?
Yes, and I can attest to it. This stuff works, by the way.
Yeah, it's great.
Super relaxing. You got to use it. Squatty Potty. And I'm sure there's so many different versions out there now, but literally it's a piece of plastic, okay? It's plastic, and it's just a stool. But because it has a name to it and has a very specific purpose, you've niched down to the exact thing you need to do. Now it's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product. Amazing.
And that rhyme sticks to our brain. That's what we want we want to learn. That's what Brain Glue, I uncovered this and I started sharing it with people and they're like, whoa, and they change the names of their products and suddenly sales explode.
Yes.
And that's like really valuable. And it's just, rhyme. I mean, it got O.J. Simpson freed from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how powerful it is. It changes a jury.
So how come, James, okay, so certain people obviously know about this technique, right? Because we've experienced it in our history. Mm-hmm. So when we see all these new products come out to market, especially in like the AI world, right? You have these LLM models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. Google's original one came out it was called Bard. It almost sounded like barf. And people didn't like it and also had some negative issues technologically and like the output that it was producing. So how come these marketing ideas that you're talking about are just not prevalent everywhere? Because they work and they're so good.
We don't understand how emotional selling works and what sticks to the brain. And I want to give you a really great example. I got lucky with this. Okay. So Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, he sold 500 million Chicken Soup for the Soul books. But how did he ever come up with the name Chicken Soup for the Soul? And this is what he was telling me. Because since then, he's come up with 47 other bestsellers. But part of why they're bestsellers is he sold 500 million Chicken Soup for the Soul books. It's the biggest selling books next to the Bible, he said. It's the biggest selling. They sold it in China. They use it anyway, but it's around the world. And all the other books were successful because they're good books, but they were successful because he's famous because of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
That's right.
So
it's like on the book when you say, and New York Times best-selling author wrote this book. And it's like the book has nothing to do with anything, but because you have a good reputation, you're probably going to sell a lot of copies.
But here's the thing, okay? There are two things that go with this that are psychological. Harvard professor Gerald Zaltman and Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman both uncovered that more than 90% of buying decisions are emotionally triggered. Logic could be a part, but you have to trigger the emotion centers of the brain. In marketing, we have this tool. We say, we want people to know, like, and trust us.
Yes.
That's emotion. Know us is not emotion. That's logic. Okay, we want them to know us, but they have to like us. If they don't like us, they probably won't buy from us.
Yeah.
If they like us, they still have to trust us. If they don't like us and trust us, they won't buy from us. It's emotion. So there are brain glue has uncovered triggers that people use. Many people don't even know about it. They just use the trigger because it's wired in their brain. So let me talk about Jack Canfield. So Jack Canfield was telling me he wrote a book with a friend, helping him, and he was going to call it 101 Motivational Stories That Will Change Your Life, okay? Or that will improve your life. It will save your life, that's what it was. And then he said, I was sitting for about a month and it was bothering me. This is an emotional book, but that's kind of a logical title. And then one day he woke up about a month after while he was thinking of this, and he said, chicken soup makes you feel good if you feel sick. My book makes you feel good if you feel sick. Chicken soup for the spirit. It doesn't exactly work, but why not call it chicken soup for the spirit, okay? It's a metaphor.
Okay.
Chicken soup for the spirit. But then he said I had a weekend of wakeless, I couldn't go to sleep.
Sleepless nights,
I'm so close. Chicken soup for the spirit. And then he woke up, he said, I woke up one day and I went, wait a second, S-O-U-P, soup, S-O-U-L, soul, chicken soup for the soul, using alliteration, the repetition of sound. And then that's how he came up with the word chicken soup for the soul. Then he was telling me, I'm pissed off at myself because had I read your book, I would have started applying those to more of my books.
Exactly. Yeah, 47 bestsellers. You imagine if all of them, they could all be hits, right? Chicken Soup for the Soul sold 500 million copies? Did you say 500 million
copies? 500 million copies. Okay.
Jeez,
okay.
That's a big number.
You make $1 a book, and he made $10. They sold him for $10 to $20 for each one of his books.
Yes.
If you made $1 a book, how much would that be? Take it home. I'll take it.
Exactly. Even with the producer and fees and taxes and all this nonsense, you're still making a lot of money. And apparently he liked writing because he wrote 47 more after that.
Yeah, he loved writing, but he didn't have to write anymore because he was making so much money.
Yeah.
That's one of the things he was telling me. And he did, workshops and stuff like that. And, so with his friend,
yes,
Steve
You're
Harrison.
giving me an idea now too, is because this is the marketing solution for a lot of folks, you could build an AI agent that marketing agencies around the world can communicate with, and then ask for these types of catchy phrases and rhymes and slogans, because AI can come up with those within a matter of seconds, right?
And AI is terrible, I have to say.
Is it bad though?
I see one of these things and it gave me 100 choices, okay?
Yeah.
Along the choices, so I came up with some, said, I have to remember what these things are, okay?
I guess it depends on the product and like what you're trying to sell too. Because you can't just come up with a catchy name, then try to reverse engineer it into a product, can you?
So yes, but here's how you do it. The first thing you do is come up with words that relate to your product, okay?
Okay.
So I said slogan, because it helps with slogans, name, pitch, an advertising pitch. Pitch, switch your pitch if you want to get rich. There's one. Okay, that was one. But then as time went on, I said, okay, that's nice, but I want something that's even more powerful. Okay. So I said, I want something that deals with individuals, with people. So they get emotional. They build desire, like the fire of desire in your buyer.
Wow.
There we go. That's what brain glue does. It shows you how to light the fire of desire in your buyer.
See, that would take like hours, I would guess, unless you have this savant person in your meeting. That would take like hours for everybody to throw ideas, brainstorm, come back with multiple meetings, and then ultimately settle on some slogan. And here's AI just popping it out based on your input. So you have to know what to prompt. Obviously, there's a human behind it all. But then when you get the result, could be a banger.
Well, but so here's what I did. So I said to AI, let me try AI and try to get this, okay? Rhymes and stuff, you can get that. I'll give you lots of rhymes, and you have to turn them into a sentence. So they gave me 100 samples. Okay. ChatGPT, I think it was. He gave me 100 samples, and they were all terrible except for one. And so it was, why brain glue? Because plain glue doesn't stick to the brain.
Yes, I love
great.
it. This is like borderline dad jokes, and I happen to be pretty good at dad jokes.
I work for Warren Buffett for his team that brought me in to help Warren when he bought some companies that weren't doing well, and I had really good success with it. And so one of the things he likes to say is, only when times are tough do you realize who's really capable and not capable. Because a lot of businesses, you buy a business and it's the first or the successful business the guy had that he created, or girl. But that doesn't mean they can take another business and make it successful, or if this business runs into trouble. And so instead of saying, I'm looking for, you want to look for people who are able to solve problems during tough times, he came up with a great slogan. I love this slogan. Only when the times get tough only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked.
I like that one.
Two things. It's like when the water goes out.
Exactly.
Metaphor, but only to discover who's been swimming naked is a trigger word. Naked is one of those words that
people react to it. Yeah, positive or negative, they react to it. That's the trigger.
I have this guy who's David Baer, B-A-E-R, and he and his partner have this incredible advertising company that helps people have advertising companies to get more sales and more clients and all that stuff and be successful. This company, but I can't for the life of me remember the name of his company. So I was on the phone with him and his partner, and I said, okay, while we were talking, I said, wait a second, I got a great name for you. Bare Naked Advertising.
Whoa.
Partner said, that's fantastic. Yes.
That's a really good one.
Said,
I was thinking about care, something like, use Bear if you care for your, business wear or whatever.
That's excellent.
Your silverware, whatever you.
That's excellent. I had this guy, but he said, I don't want naked next to my name. So he didn't go with it. It's like, no, I can't remember the name of your company. And his partner was bugging him, trying to get him to change the name.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Exactly. The business is the business, because ultimately you could sell it one day and make a lot of money. So you don't have to say like what you like. Because I was working with a team the other day and I was doing like advertising, right, for them. And it was more like social media management, not really advertising. But I put something out there. It was like a creative, right? It was like a video. It's supposed to be funny, whatever. We threw it out there on the social media. And then that night he texted me. He's like, I liked the one yesterday. I didn't like this one. And I was like, it doesn't matter if we like it or not. The market is going to tell us, right? So we're going to watch the views, the insights, and how many people watched it, how many people liked it, how many people commented, positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to base our decision off of that, right? Because what if we like it? Who cares? If like 2 people like some ad, but it doesn't hit on the market, people aren't buying our product, which means we're not making money. So ultimately it's, what does the market want to see?
And that's what you want to understand, the trigger word. So this is an interesting one. I was amazed by this because trigger words help stick to the brain. I mean, the bottom line is every one of us is overwhelmed with all these advertising and marketing and ideas, and things off our phone and, family. Before we had phones that Steve Jobs invented for us, we wouldn't connect, we barely communicate with each other. It cost a fortune to call somebody from New York to Los Angeles or from another country.
That's right.
Once we discover this, we're overwhelmed. And that's why what you want to do is we recognize they're overwhelmed. So you want to trigger something where they go, huh? So here's this, a woman who had given birth to her 1 or 2 kids and she was at home and she created a Facebook page and she didn't want to spend money, but she wanted to generate a lot of subscribers.
Okay.
So you know what her name of her Facebook page was? Mommy Needs Vodka.
Wow, that's cool.
So here's how it worked for me, because I ended up becoming one of the 5 million people. She has 5 million people and she spends zero on advertising, okay? And in fact, she has so many people that she finally said, I should be selling the products. And she started coming up with products.
Exactly.
She had like 5 million people.
You can do a lot with a followership. That's the thing. Like, because AI is about to take over a lot of jobs, especially if you sit behind a computer and you're not working with your hands, typing doesn't count, then AI is probably going to take your job. And the idea is you have to build a followership early because that's going to help you survive the next phase. You can sell products, you can have referrals, you can have a community. All that is going to build wealth down the road. I strongly believe that.
Well, just let me talk about, I agree with you. Let me talk about this. So Mommy Needs Vodka. So she had good content, fun content and good content, okay? Mm-hmm. But there are tons of us that have really great content. We don't have, for doing nothing, we don't have 5 million followers. So how does hers work with the name Mommy Needs Vodka? A friend of mine who must have been on her site, who must have been a subscriber, saw one of her articles and it was great and he sent it to me. So I looked at it and, oh yeah, it's a fun article. And we always tend to look at who it's from. So it's a fun article from Mommy Needs Vodka? What the heck's that? I clicked on the link,
Immediately
went to
clicked
her
on it.
thing, and then I say, oh, she has really cool stuff, and I became a subscriber.
Nice. That was the hook that drove you in, because that's the you have to get them over that cross line. I think you mentioned this to me. Like get them in the door first by whatever means necessary. Use all of the keys within Brain Glue, one of them being a trigger word, right? To get them interested. Something weird is happening. I need to find out what's happening here. Curiosity. When they click on that, then they come in and then they see your product. And like you said, you still have to have a good product. Just because you got them in the door doesn't mean they're going to buy. But at least you get more people in the door, increasing your chances of selling.
And that we have to understand that it makes a difference. We want whatever we're selling them or promoting to them to stick to the brain.
Yes.
So they may not buy it right this second, but they want it when they go to the store. You want them to go, hey, I got to check this thing out and remember it. So I told you this story last time, but I want to share this with the audience.
Sure.
So Post Cereals is competing with Kellogg's.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a whole story behind that, but besides that. And so the head of Post Cereals decided he wanted to create a product that would just take off like gangbusters. And so he came up with this product idea, which was a cake that has strawberry, blueberry, raspberry jam inside it. And you put it in a toaster. When it comes up out of the toaster, you have a nice little cake. And 3 months before he launched it, a guy from one of the media was talking to him, and he started bragging about this. We got this new product that's coming out in 3 months that we're calling Country Squares. It's really great, okay? And so the head of Kellogg's was watching this and went, oh, guys, come here. I need you guys to figure out how to make that. Look at that product. We've got to do this. We've got to make that product, okay? But we need to come up with a better name. So let's see it. Pops out of the toaster. Why don't we call it Pop something? It's a pop, and back then there was pop art, which was from Andy Warhol, who created pop art. He was famous back then when it was launched. He had things like a soup can as an ad, a picture of a soup can. He had Marilyn Monroe and stuff like that. And it was just funky stuff. He was talking about stuff that people never thought of as art.
Okay.
And he said, that's art, pop art. So pop art, Pop Tart. Why don't we call it Pop Tarts? It's stuck to the brain. It wakes everybody up.
Crazy.
His sales exploded. And I mean exploded. They actually ran out of product. It was the biggest selling product Kellogg's ever had. And what they did was they ran an ad. And the ad said, oops, sorry, Pop-Tarts ran out. We didn't realize how many of you are going to love this so much. Just hold on for a little bit and we're going to have more Pop-Tarts. Nobody bought Country Squares.
Gee.
He dropped it out 1 week before Country Squares. In 2 months, 2.5 months, cereal stopped selling Country Squares because nobody was buying Country Squares when everybody was buying Pop-Tarts. Last year, Pop-Tarts sold 3 billion Pop-Tarts. They're making a fortune, and the guy who invented it on Post had to stop selling it because he didn't come up with a good enough name.
Jeez, it all comes down to the name.
Stick to
It
the
probably
brain like
tasted
glue.
good too.
Exactly. You got to stick to the brain like glue. That's what you got to do. I mean, we love songs. There are a lot of songs that are really wonderful. There's one of the tools I love I'm old enough to remember the Beatles moving up. You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go.
Yes.
Go. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Okay, that's a great song.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's opposites, like In-N-Out Burgers. Opposites. Okay, there are lots of opposites that work really well. President John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
That's right.
Civil rights activist Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock, the rock landed on us. The opposite. He also
So
said,
that
stand for
stick,
nothing.
huh? When it's opposite like that, it helps.
Oh yeah, and when you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Oh, that's right.
Their comedians use this. I love this one, okay?
Man,
They said, I'd rather wake up and pee than pee and wake up.
that's perfect. It's relatable too.
Yes, it is. I can relate. That's me.
That's funny. Okay, James, we don't have much time left. This has just been nonstop action. I'm just going to go ahead and ask you this, okay? So imagine there's a tool somebody is selling. These are AI voice agents, and these agents act like receptionists, and they answer 24/7 for the business owner, and then they'll book appointments. They'll even sell products. They'll send you a link and you pay your credit card. They'll send you emails. People in our community will sell these agents, right? And I think none of them are applying brain glue. to this product. We sell it to a service business owner who's too busy to get to their phone. They might be on the roof working, they just can't get to their phone. So all those calls, they go to voicemail, and the business owner loses out on that potential lead because the person who's calling, it's not going to wait. They get a voicemail, they'll just go to the next person on Google and keep on going. So we want a name for this product. Okay, what's coming to your mind? What are you thinking?
Know, like, and trust. I'm going to come back to that. We say this all the time to people. If you're trying to sell somebody, you need to get them to know you, like you, and trust you. Okay? And remember you, by the way.
Yes.
Okay? But know you, like you, and trust you. And so that means you got to trigger parts of the brain. You know, we think, oh, I think you're going to really like this product. Okay? Why? Well, let me come up with a name, you know? Hot Pockets.
Like
hot Pockets? Yeah, you can put it in a microwave and it comes out and you can hold it in your hand even though it's burning hot and enjoy eating the thing. Hot Pockets. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting.
Okay, so we're saying that we shouldn't be just calling it AI voice agent. That's too bland, that's too logical. We need to come up with some kind of an emotional trigger word, ideally rhyming, something catchy. And so what I would do, if you asked me to do this, is I'd go to an LLM, ideally Gemini or Perplexity, and I'd say, hey, this is what I'm selling. Use reference brain glue and then come up with catchy names for this product. And it would come up with probably 10.
Yeah, and you want to use things like alliteration, the repetition of sound. Coca-Cola, Best Buy, Biden's Build Back Better. You think it's a coincidence that they came up with that? No, they recognize that alliteration, the repetition of sound works. I was telling you this thing, but I love sharing it, is so Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were starting a show together. And they wanted to come up with a show and it should have Lucy name in it, Lucy. So what's another word that begins with the letter L? Lucky. Lucky Lucy, there's our show. Nah, like Lucy, love Lucy, I love Lucy. There we go. Having a good show isn't good enough. You have to have a good name for the show too. It fits together. Well, then they were working with Desilu Productions where they would produce their show, but other people's shows too. There were 3 other shows that they produced that all use alliteration, the repetition of sound. Mission Impossible, Mission Impossible. It doesn't begin with the word, but it uses it. Star Trek, Star Trek. I mean, I defy somebody to look at the show and come up with a better name for it.
4 letters and 4 letters. You think that something has something like one syllable? You think that has something to do with it?
It doesn't. No, that doesn't matter. But you want to have them together. So 4 syllables, 4 syllables.
Okay. Okay.
The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. I mean, it's about the same. It's like songs.
That's right.
Not the whiter your bread, you're dead. It's like, well, that doesn't work.
It goes well with a jingle too, right? Because then you can apply some music to it, and then it's just like people remember that. Nationwide is on your side.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. That's a fact, and sticks to your brain. It's like
Okay, I came up with some names, or Perplexity did rather. I said I'll take the credit for it. So this AI voice agent thing, right? Let me know what you think about this stuff. So call closer.
It's interesting.
Interesting. Okay, how about BookBot?
BookBot's good, yeah.
BookBot's a good one, right? I think I kind of like that one because it books a call, right? It books an appointment for you, and it's a robot, so BookBot.
Right.
Here's a good one. Sell Sally.
Sell Sally? Who's Sally?
Who's selling? I don't know, but I have an agent.
No, who's Sally?
Who is Sally? I don't know. It's just the name of the bot now. Yeah.
But Sell Sally could work.
Because your agent, your receptionist, right? Maybe their name is Sally, and they sell. So
remember, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?
Yes, exactly. That might be kind of bad. Sell Sally. I don't like that one. Ring Ranger. Oh my gosh, I don't even like that one. Deal Dove.
You're doing the most important thing, which is we have to recognize that the first thing that AI is going to give us isn't always the best. So you want to say, give me 100 or give me 50 choices and do it that way. And then you go through that and you'll find 1 or 2 that are really fabulous.
Okay.
If you trust it for one, remember, it's not a human. And I want to say this other thing, which I think is really quite significant. You don't want to do what you don't always want to do what your competitors do. Steve Jobs had a great line he used from Ford, from Henry Ford. And Henry Ford said, if I gave everybody what they wanted, I'd be focusing on faster horses.
That's right. He did say.
And he said that, you want to be, people would say, he invented connection to the internet on your phone. If you said it to people, they sold it for what, $500 a phone or something? Every phone costs like $20 or $30, and here's a phone for $500. And yet they had a line around the buildings of every building they were selling it from because it was, because he recognized, again, you can know stuff that AI doesn't know. And so you use AI as a tool, as a helper. AI is a fabulous helper on many levels, can be a fabulous helper, but also recognize that you're the one that has to choose. If you said, back then, if Henry Ford said, should I be coming up with cars or just make faster horses? It probably would have said faster horses.
Of course, yeah, because that's what the market at the time would have wanted. And so
That's
you really have to be a future teller, basically,
Well, you have to
wise
be
beyond your
emotional.
years.
You have to allow your emotion. Don't be. We're logical, and that's the problem. We're emotional people, but we are trained from school to be logical.
Yeah.
And also, as in business, we want to be logical because we want to solve problems that exist or create
Money
new
is
products that will
logical,
help.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Money is not.
Exactly. Money is very logical, especially, hey, look, it's coming in. I can't believe it. When we do pictures and ads, we don't just have a guy holding the money. We have the money falling from the top on, that's how much money it is. Wow, yeah.
Hopefully this AI voice agent makes that much money. So what I did now while we were just chatting is I said, now I like BookBot. Now come up with a jingle for BookBot as well. And here's what I came up with. BookBot on the line books your sales every time. Got two thumbs up. Let's go. Let's go. People take that one and run with it. How about this one? The last one. No missed calls day or night. Your 24/7 profit light. Yeah, I don't know about the profit light. It does not sound quite not meshing there. The first one I like. BookBot on the line books your sales every time. I think what I'll do, so for the listeners, James gave me feedback on my website yesterday and said, hey, your title, your homepage, all that is very logical. Like, hey, if you want to boost your sales, blah, 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 blah. And so I changed that, and now it's emotional. So go to soniccombinator.com and check it out. I'd love to get your feedback. What I'm going to do though is I also have an AI voice agent that everybody in our community, we're like 137 people, we all try to sell these things to people, right? Because they come with the software that we have, but we're all selling them as AI voice agents. And that's how our calls will go. It's like, hey, do you want an AI voice agent? It'll, answer all your calls. It never sleeps and all the AI stuff. But if we started coming up with, hey, you want to buy a BookBot? Well, what's that, right? Well, let me tell you, BookBot on the line books your sales every time. It just kind of sells it, and then they'll start being interesting, And you put that in the subject line of your emails, and you say something. You told me this yesterday. We'll say something like, BookBot has escaped again, right? BookBot has, I don't know. We'll come up with something where it's so intriguing, so weird, that somebody has to click on it and they're curious about it to get into the email, and then we tell them about all the benefits.
Right. Well, and that's why we have to remember that there's certain words that grab our attention all the time. So if you said beware, people tend to look, beware of what? And now they're going to, so we hear a negative like that and it grabs our attention and it gets them to read. So if you have a title, I'm not saying to put that on yours, but often what we want is we want to grab their, if we get the right person, we want to grab their attention. And there are certain words that grab our attention.
This has been phenomenal. James, we're coming up here on time. It's going to cut us off. So where can people find you and get this information directly from you, and so they don't have to come wait on me or anything?
Well, an easy way is to get access to the book Brain Glue, and you look for James I. Bond. I'm James Bond.
Yes, you are.
Brain Glue on Amazon is really good. But we also have a program that helps people, and it's called yesbrainglue.com. And it's a good one to look at because it's got tons of examples of Gorilla Glue. When you think Gorilla, would they call it elephant glue? It's not as good as Gorilla Glue, as alliteration, repetition of sound. Okay? And it works. It's got Chips Ahoy cookies, like Ship Ahoy. They picked a name that people knew, okay? Head and Shoulders shampoo. It's like head and shoulders, knees and toes, eyes, ears, mouth and nose. They knew this is already in the brain, so why don't we take that word, okay? And I've got all these different examples. GoDaddy, he changed the name of his company. I even forget what it was a technical name to GoDaddy. And it's just struggling.
It's very catchy. A lot of people use GoDaddy.
He became a billionaire with GoDaddy, okay?
Wow.
Really, it was amazing.
Well, James, you're amazing. And I think this has been really, really helpful. Thank you very much for jumping on. We're going to do this again.